He never thought his life would change after leaving the army. Years of service had left him tired and wary of surprises, and he had spent the last few years trying to live a quiet life. He stayed in a small house near the edge of the city, taking long walks, fixing small machines, and keeping mostly to himself. But that calm ended the day the summons arrived. It was a letter unlike any he had ever seen. The paper shimmered faintly, and the writing seemed to move slightly, as if it had a life of its own. He opened it with a mixture of curiosity and unease. The letter came from the alien king himself. The words were formal but urgent. It said he had been chosen to inherit a creature one that no one in the alien kingdom wanted. The army veteran stared at the letter for a long time, thinking it was a prank. But there was no return address he could recognize, no way to trace it. Something about it felt real. He spent hours pacing his small living room, trying to decide what to do. Part of him wanted to ignore it. After all, why would an alien king care about him? He wasn't famous, he wasn't rich, and he certainly wasn't looking for adventure. He had lived a life of service and pain, and now he just wanted peace. But another part of him, a small stubborn part that had survived battles. He didn't want to remember, wanted to see what this was about. He couldn't shake the feeling that the letter was meant to find him for a reason he did not yet understand. Finally, after a long night of thinking, he decided to go. He packed only what he needed, a few clothes, his military jacket, and his old survival knife. It had been with him through every war, every mission, and he wasn't about to leave it behind. As he left his home, he looked back once, wondering if he would ever see it the same way again. The journey was long. The transport ship that took him to the alien capital was unlike anything he had experienced. The walls shimmered with colors. That seemed alive, and the air inside smelled faintly of something sweet but sharp. Other passengers, dressed in alien robes, glanced at him curiously. He tried to ignore them, keeping his focus on the letter that still felt heavy in his pocket. Every time he thought about what awaited him, he felt a knot of nervous excitement. When he arrived, the city was vast and unlike anything he had ever seen. Towering buildings stretched high into the sky, glowing softly with light that seemed to come from inside the walls. Strange vehicles floated above the streets, moving silently, and creatures of all shapes and sizes walked among the aliens. Despite the city's beauty, he couldn't shake a feeling of unease. It was alien, yes, but also tense, as if everyone was watching him. At the palace gates, he was met by guards, unlike any soldiers he had known. They were tall, with sharp eyes and bodies that seemed stronger than humans, yet they moved with grace. One of them stepped forward and bowed. "The king is expecting you," the guard said, his voice deep and steady. The veteran nodded, trying to appear calm. Inside, his heart raced. He had faced enemies that could crush a man in seconds, but he had never felt fear like this, not fear of death, but fear of the unknown. The palace hall was immense. The ceiling stretched high, decorated with patterns that seemed to shift when you looked at them too long. The walls were smooth and glowing faintly, and the floor reflected the colors of the room like a liquid mirror. At the far end of the hall, sitting on a throne that seemed to float slightly above the ground, was the alien king. The king's appearance was unlike anything he had imagined. He was tall, with skin that shimmered in shades of blue and green, eyes that seemed to see through. The veteran entirely, and a presence that made the entire hall feel small. But it wasn't fear that gripped him. It was awe. He had faced battlefields filled with fire and death. But standing here, in front of this being, he realized he had never truly known power until now. "Welcome," the king said, his voice calm, but carrying a weight that made the veteran straighten in respect. "I am glad you came. I have something for you." The words were simple, but the meaning was heavy. He watched as the king motioned, and the doors behind the throne opened. There, chained and sitting quietly, was a creature that made the veteran's heart stop. It was a wolf, but unlike any wolf he had ever seen. Its fur was dark and rough, with scars marking its face and body. Its eyes were bright, intelligent, and there was something almost human in the way it looked at him. The veteran felt a strange pull, a connection he couldn't explain. "This is yours now," the king said. "It is a creature despised by my people, feared and misunderstood. Yet it has chosen you. Take care of it, for few are worthy of its loyalty." The veteran stepped closer cautiously. The wolf did not growl or move aggressively. It simply stared, unblinking, as if assessing him. He knelt slowly, his hand reaching out, trembling slightly despite himself. When his fingers brushed the wolf's fur, he felt warmth and a strange sense of calm, as if the creature recognized him immediately. The king's voice broke the silence. "It speaks. You will understand it. Few humans can." The veteran froze. Speak? A wolf that could speak. It seemed impossible. But then, in a voice that was low, calm, and startlingly human, the wolf said, "Finally, someone who sees me." The hall fell silent. Even the guards stepped back, eyes wide. The veteran's mouth went dry. You can talk?" he asked, his voice barely audible. "Yes," the wolf said simply. "I have waited a long time for someone who will listen." The veteran felt a mixture of fear, awe, and curiosity. He had faced enemies who could kill with a thought, soldiers who had betrayed him, and horrors beyond imagining, but nothing had prepared him for this. The wolf's gaze held depth, intelligence, and a strange sorrow. It was not a mindless beast. It was something entirely different, something that could change everything he thought he knew about life. The king stood. "Take it," he said. "It is yours. Treat it well, and it will protect you. Neglect it, and you will learn the consequences. The choice is yours." With that, the king gestured, and the chains fell away. The veteran stood slowly, unsure what to do. The wolf did not move immediately. It waited, watching him carefully, as if deciding whether he was worthy. Then, with a graceful and deliberate motion, it stepped forward and nudged his hand gently. The veteran felt something shift inside him. All the years of pain, war, and loneliness seemed to fade, replaced by a sense of responsibility he could not ignore. This creature, despised and feared by others, had chosen him. And in that choice, he felt the first spark of purpose he had known in a long time. As he walked out of the palace with the wolf by his side, he realized that his life had changed forever. The quiet days he had hoped for were gone, replaced by a journey he could not yet understand. But for the first time in years, he felt alive. The unknown stretched before him, and for once he did not fear it. He had been chosen for a reason, and he would face whatever came next together with the wolf who could speak. The wolf no one else wanted. The wolf that had stunned an entire kingdom simply by existing. Outside the palace gates, the city seemed even larger than before. Strange lights danced across the sky, and alien creatures passed by, some curious, some wary. But the veteran did not notice them. He focused on the wolf at his side. Its eyes were still watching him carefully, studying him as he studied it. And for the first time, he understood something he had never realized in all his years of service. Trust could be forged in a single glance, and loyalty could come from the most unexpected place. He had inherited a creature despised by a kingdom, a creature feared and misunderstood, a creature that spoke like a human. And in that inheritance lay both a challenge and a gift. The journey had begun, and neither of them knew where it would lead, but for the first time in a long time, both of them felt hope. The Army veteran had expected the walk from the palace to his temporary quarters to be straightforward, but it quickly became clear that the wolf he had inherited was unlike any creature he had ever known. The streets of the alien city were crowded, with beings of every imaginable shape and color, and people and creatures alike moved with a rhythm that was almost musical, yet intimidating in its precision. Despite the noise and chaos around them, the wolf walked silently beside him, as if it belonged in this strange world. Even though it had been despised by those who lived here, the veteran kept glancing at the wolf, trying to understand it. Its fur was dark and coarse, marred with scars, and its eyes glowed faintly in the alien sunlight. Yet, there was something in those eyes that made him pause, a depth of intelligence, and a calmness that seemed impossible for a creature that looked so fierce. He realized that he had never felt this level of connection with any living being before, even during the war when he had trusted his squad to cover his back. It had not felt like this. "Why me?" he asked quietly, almost to himself. The wolf's ears twitched, and it turned its head slowly to meet his gaze. "Because you see the truth," the wolf replied, its voice calm and measured. "Others see only my scars and fear. They see what they want to see. You see me as I am." The veteran swallowed. He had faced fear countless times in battle, yet the honesty in the wolf's voice made his own heart race. There was no deception, no anger, just truth. He had never had anyone or anything speak to him like that. As they moved deeper into the city, he noticed the reactions of the aliens around them. Some recoiled, whispering to one another, pointing at the wolf. Others stared openly, wide-eyed, and uncertain. It was clear that no one had ever walked openly with this wolf in public before. Many of the citizens avoided them entirely, crossing the street or stepping back when the wolf passed. Some even muttered curses under their breath. "Do they always react like this?" the veteran asked, a hint of frustration in his voice. "Always," the wolf said, its voice quiet but firm. "I am feared because of what I am, not because of what I have done. Most have never bothered to understand me. They only see me as a threat, a mistake, or a burden. That is why the king gave me to you. He knows you are different." The veteran nodded slowly. He had lived among humans and aliens in war zones, and he had learned long ago that fear often came from ignorance. But seeing it firsthand, watching the stares and whispers, made him feel a surge of protectiveness. He realized he could not abandon this creature, no matter how strange the circumstances were. Their walk continued in silence for a while, the city around them a blur of colors and movement. The wolf occasionally sniffed the air, its movements precise and deliberate, as if it could sense danger even where none existed. The veteran began to notice small details he had missed before. The subtle way the wolf's ears flicked at sounds, the tension in its muscles, the way its eyes seemed to follow every shadow. It was not just intelligent. It was aware, calculating, and cautious. Finally, they reached a quiet area on the edge of the city where the veteran's temporary quarters had been prepared. It was a small, simple dwelling, unlike the grand palace they had just left. The walls were made of a smooth, metallic material that reflected light softly, and there was a small courtyard outside with sparse vegetation. It was not luxurious, but it was safe, and for the first time since leaving his home, the veteran felt a sense of relief. The wolf sat down in the courtyard, its body relaxed but alert. The veteran joined it, sitting on the ground a few feet away, unsure of what to say next. The silence between them was not uncomfortable. It was filled with unspoken understanding. He could feel the wolf's gaze on him, studying him as he studied it. "I need to understand you," he said finally. "I need to know what I've taken on. No one else wants you, and I need to know why." The wolf's ears twitched. "It is not an easy story," I have been despised for most of my life. Others feared me, and some tried to control me. I was used in ways that no creature should be used, and yet I survived. I learned to understand, to think, to speak, even when others believed it was impossible. That is why I can speak to you now. I choose you because you are not like them. You are not afraid of what you do not understand. The veteran listened carefully, feeling a mixture of awe and sorrow. He had known loss, pain, and hardship, but the wolf's story made him realize how narrow his understanding of suffering had been. This creature, despised and abandoned, had survived against impossible odds, and now it was offering him a chance to walk beside it, to understand it, and to protect it. Over the next few hours, they began to explore the courtyard together. The wolf moved gracefully, its senses keen and precise. It sniffed at the walls, at the ground, at the small plants growing in the corner. It watched the sky carefully, as if reading the clouds for signs of danger. The veteran began to understand that this wolf was not just a companion. It was a survivor, a protector, and a being of remarkable intelligence. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the courtyard, the wolf finally spoke again. "Tomorrow, you will see the world through my eyes," it said. "You will understand why others fear me, why I'm not like the creatures you have known. And perhaps if you are patient, you will begin to see the truth about who I am." The veteran nodded, feeling a mixture of anticipation and apprehension. He had faced enemies that could destroy entire cities, battles that had left him scarred and weary. But he realized that this journey would challenge him in ways he had never imagined. He would have to learn trust, patience, and understanding, qualities that were far more difficult than wielding a weapon. Night fell, and the city around them grew quiet. The veteran lay down on a simple bed, but sleep did not come easily. He kept thinking about the wolf, its voice, its eyes, and the weight of the responsibility he had been given. He had inherited a creature that was feared, despised, and misunderstood, and he knew that caring for it would not be easy. Yet, despite the uncertainty, he felt a spark of excitement. For the first time in years, he felt like his life had purpose. Again, the wolf remained awake, sitting at the edge of the courtyard, watching the stars appear in the alien sky. Its gaze occasionally flicked toward the veteran, as if ensuring he was safe, as if silently promising to protect him no matter what. Dangers lay ahead. The connection between them deepened with each passing moment, a bond formed not out of fear or obligation, but out of understanding and mutual respect. In the quiet of the night, the veteran finally realized something important. He was not just inheriting a creature. He was inheriting a story, a life filled with pain and resilience, a being that had survived in a world that refused to accept it. And in taking responsibility for the wolf, he was not just offering protection, he was offering trust, companionship, and the chance for both of them to find a place in a world that had so far rejected them. As sleep finally came, he dreamed of battles he had fought, of cities he had defended, and of a wolf whose voice was clear and calm, guiding him through the darkness. He knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges, new lessons, and new revelations. But for now, in the quiet night of the alien city, he felt a rare sense of peace. He was no longer alone, and for the first time in a long time, he felt ready to face whatever the future might hold, with the wolf at his side. The next morning, the Army veteran woke to the soft glow of the alien sun streaming through the courtyard walls. The wolf was already awake, sitting quietly at the edge of the space, its eyes scanning the surroundings. There was a calm authority in its posture, a quiet strength that made the veteran realize just how much he still had to learn from this creature. He stepped outside, stretching and breathing the fresh alien air. The city was alive again. Creatures of every shape and size moved along the streets, going about their daily business. Ships floated silently above the ground, leaving trails of faint light, and the buildings glimmered softly in colors he could not name. Yet, despite the beauty and bustle, he felt a tension in the air. He had seen it yesterday, the way the citizens reacted to the wolf. Today, he would experience it more closely. "Stay close," he said to the wolf, almost instinctively. The wolf tilted its head and walked alongside him, moving with grace and precision. Its presence was comforting, but also a reminder that he was walking into a world that had not been kind to it. As they left the courtyard, whispers began immediately. Aliens stepped aside, giving them wide space. Some looked afraid, while others were openly curious. A few brave souls whispered comments under their breath, which the veteran could not understand, but the tone was unmistakable, fear mixed with disgust. He clenched his fists lightly, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. He was not just walking a wolf through the city. He was walking a creature that had been rejected by an entire society. Do they always react like this? He asked quietly, though he knew the wolf could hear. "They do," the wolf replied, its voice calm and steady. "They see what they want to see. They judge me by scars, by size, by the fear they feel. They do not know me, and they do not care to." The veteran nodded slowly. He understood fear. He had faced it many times during the war, but this was different. This was fear mixed with ignorance and pride, fear that could turn people cruel if they were not careful. He felt a surge of protectiveness for the wolf, stronger than anything he had ever felt for himself. Their walk took them toward the city's central market, a place the veteran had been told was vibrant and full of life. He had expected a simple bazaar, but the reality was overwhelming. Stalls of shimmering metal, floating objects, and creatures selling items he could barely comprehend filled the streets. The smells were strange, some sweet, some sharp, some oddly metallic. Yet the wolf walked confidently, moving past the stalls without fear, as if it knew exactly where to go. "Are you always this calm?" he asked. "Calm is necessary," Wolf said. "When the world sees you as a monster, you must learn to move through it with patience and observation. Panic will only make them attack. Control your fear, and they will hesitate." The veteran thought about those words. Control his fear, patience and observation. He had been trained in tactics and strategy in the army, but this was different. This was not about bullets or explosions. This was about perception, about walking through a world that judged unfairly and responding with intelligence rather than anger. As they moved through the market, the wolf began to speak about its life, carefully, in a way that did not demand pity, but shared truth. It told him about the experiments it had endured as a young creature, how it had been forced to endure tests of intelligence and strength that left scars both visible and invisible. It spoke of isolation, of being chained and feared, of moments when it had nearly given up hope that anyone would ever understand it. The veteran listened in silence. Each word carried weight, each memory a reminder of the cruelty that had shaped this being. He felt anger rise, anger at those who had treated the wolf as an object, a tool, or a danger. But more than anger, he felt empathy, a deep and growing bond. He had known hardship and loss, but the wolf's experiences went beyond what he had imagined possible. "Why me?" he asked again, though he had already heard the answer. "Because you do not run from what you do not understand." Wolf replied, "You have faced death and fear, yet you still choose to act with integrity. That is rare among humans and rarer still among other creatures. I trust you because I have seen your courage." The veteran looked down at the wolf, feeling a mix of pride and humility. Courage. He had always thought of courage as facing bullets or enemy soldiers, But this was different. This was courage in understanding, in trust, in taking responsibility for a life that others had abandoned. He realized that he had been given more than a companion. He had been given a teacher, a guide, and a friend out as they continued through. The market, they encountered a group of aliens who were braver than the rest. They stepped forward, their expressions a mixture of curiosity and challenge. "That creature is dangerous," one of them said, speaking in the language of the city. "It is not natural, and it should be destroyed." The veteran took a step forward, placing himself between the group and the wolf. "It is not dangerous," he said firmly. "It is living, it is thinking, and it is not harming anyone. You are afraid because you do not understand." The wolf remained calm beside him, its eyes watching the group carefully. "Let them see what they want," it said quietly. "Do not engage with fear. Speak only with truth." The group hesitated, clearly surprised by the human's confidence and the wolf's calm presence. After a moment, they muttered among themselves and stepped back, leaving the veteran and the wolf to continue their path. He realized that the wolf's words were wise. Fear and anger could provoke conflict, but truth and calmness could protect them, both thought, by the time they reached the outskirts of the city. The veteran felt exhausted, but in a different way than after battle. This exhaustion was mental, a mixture of concentration, awareness, and emotional strain. Walking through a world that feared and judged, the wolf had demanded every bit of his patience and focus. Yet despite the challenge, he felt something else. A deep satisfaction, a growing sense of purpose. In the quiet of the city outskirts, the wolf finally relaxed, sitting down and stretching. "You did well today," it said. "You walked with me, faced the fear of others, and remained calm. That is the first step in earning my trust fully." The veteran sat beside it, feeling the warmth of its body against his side. He realized that this day had been a test, though not one he had expected. It was not about strength or weapons or strategy. It was about trust, empathy, and understanding. And he had passed, not because he was fearless, but because he chose to act with respect and care. As the alien sun dipped toward the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, the veteran looked at the wolf and smiled. "Tomorrow we learn more," he said. "About you, about me, and about this world that doesn't understand either of us." The wolf nodded, its glowing eyes reflecting the fading light. "Tomorrow we continue, and together we will face what comes next." For the first time, the veteran felt a sense of partnership that went deeper than friendship. It was a bond forged in trust, respect, and shared experience. The wolf had chosen him, and he had chosen it. Together, they would navigate a world full of fear, misunderstanding, and challenge. And for the first time in years, he felt truly alive, ready to face the unknown, step by step, alongside a companion who was more than a wolf, who was a teacher, a protector, and a friend. Night fell, and the two settled under the alien stars. The veteran reflected on the day, on the reactions of the city, and on the wolf's words. He realized that the journey ahead would not be easy, but it would be meaningful. Every step they took together would be a lesson, every challenge an opportunity to grow, and every moment a chance to prove that compassion and understanding could overcome fear and prejudice. As he drifted into sleep, the veteran felt the steady rhythm of the wolf beside him, a comforting presence in a world that still held so many mysteries. He knew the days ahead would test him in ways he could not yet imagine, but he was no longer afraid. He had a companion who could think, speak, and feel, and with that companion, he was ready to face whatever lay ahead. The following morning, the Army veteran woke early, the soft alien sunlight spilling through the walls of his small quarters. He could hear the quiet breathing of the wolf, still alert and attentive even at rest. As he sat up, he realized that, over the past few days, he had begun to notice the subtle ways the wolf observed the world, the way it tracked movement in the distance, how its ears twitched at the faintest sounds, and the way its eyes seemed to measure every shadow. The creature was more than a companion. It was a being of intelligence, caution, and instinct combined. Today, we move farther, the wolf said quietly, its voice carrying the calm authority of someone who had lived many lifetimes. You must see the world through my eyes, and you must understand what I have endured. Only then will our bond grow stronger, the veteran nodded. He had learned in the last few days that patience and observation were key. The wolf's life had been shaped by fear, rejection, and cruelty, and if he wanted to earn its trust fully, he had to move carefully, with understanding and respect. As they walked through the outskirts of the city, the veteran noticed that the reactions of other aliens were still the same: fear, suspicion, and avoidance. Some stared openly, others whispered under their breath. A few even seemed angry, as if the very presence of the wolf offended them. Yet, unlike before, the veteran no longer felt panic or confusion. He understood that these reactions were not personal attacks, but the result of years of prejudice and misunderstanding. The wolf moved gracefully, stepping carefully over uneven surfaces, its eyes scanning constantly. They fear me because they do not know me, it said. Fear is a tool they use to control others, and many have forgotten how to see beyond it. You must remember this. Fear can be turned into opportunity if you act with patience and clarity. They reached a narrow alley where the walls of the buildings seemed closer together, the light dimmer and the sounds more echoing. The wolf paused, sniffing the air and lowering its body slightly. The veteran felt a tension in the air, a subtle change he could not yet name. Something is wrong, the wolf said, its voice calm but urgent. Stay close and do not panic. Observe first, act second. Suddenly, a group of alien enforcers appeared, blocking the path ahead. Their expressions were stern, their weapons raised slightly, and their eyes fixed on the wolf with clear suspicion. You are not allowed to walk this path with that creature, one of them said, his voice sharp. It is dangerous and unlawful to possess it without the king's explicit permission. The veteran stepped forward, placing himself between the wolf and the enforcers. This is not a dangerous creature, he said firmly. It is intelligent, capable, and peaceful unless threatened. You are judging it based on fear, not truth. The wolf remained calm, its gaze steady and assessing. Do not engage unless necessary, it whispered. Let them see clarity. Let them hesitate. The enforcers hesitated, clearly uncertain how to respond. The veteran took a deep breath, maintaining eye contact. He realized that confrontation was not always about strength, but about presence, confidence, and the willingness to stand for what was right. After a tense moment, the enforcers stepped aside, muttering among themselves, but not attacking. The wolf's calm authority had commanded their respect, even if it did not earn their understanding. As they continued, the wolf began to speak about its life in more detail. It told the veteran about the experiments it had endured as a young creature, how scientists and rulers had tested its abilities in ways that were cruel and unnecessary. It spoke of being chained, isolated, and feared, and of the loneliness that had shaped its mind and spirit. Each word carried weight, and the veteran listened intently, feeling a mixture of anger, sorrow, and admiration. You survived everything, he said finally. I don't know if I could have done the same. Survival is instinct, the wolf replied. Endurance is learning, but trust is rare. That is why I chose you. You have endured your own trials, and you understand that life is not about fear, but about action and compassion. The veteran nodded slowly, realizing that the wolf's words were as much a lesson as a story. Trust was something that could be earned, and it required patience, understanding, and consistency. He felt a deep sense of responsibility settle over him. This was more than companionship. It was a partnership based on respect and shared experience. As they reached the edge of the city, the landscape changed. The streets gave way to open terrain, with hills, rocky outcrops, and strange vegetation glowing faintly under the alien sun. The air smelled fresher here, and the sounds of the city faded, replaced by the quiet rustling of plants and distant alien wildlife. The veteran felt a sense of relief. Away from the crowded streets and the whispers of the fearful, he could finally observe the wolf more closely and begin to understand its world. "Walk with me," the wolf said. "See how I navigate this space. Notice what I sense, how I move, and how I respond to potential threats." The veteran followed, keeping his eyes on the wolf. He noticed the subtle movements, the way it adjusted its posture when a shadow passed, how its ears flicked toward distant sounds, and how its eyes scanned constantly for danger or opportunity. He realized that the wolf had survived not because of brute strength alone, but because of intelligence, awareness, and instinct honed over years of adversity. They stopped near a small clearing, where the sun's light bathed the ground in soft gold. The wolf sat, its body relaxed but ready. "Observe the details," it said. "The world is not as it seems. There is danger in places you do not expect, and opportunity in places you overlook. Understanding comes from awareness, not assumption." The veteran studied the area, noting subtle signs he would have missed before. Slight disturbances in the dirt, faint tracks of alien creatures, and the rustling of leaves signaling movement. He realized that the wolf had a way of seeing the world that was both practical and profound. It could read threats, opportunities, and patterns with precision, a skill that would be invaluable in the days to come. "You have learned much already," the wolf said after a while. "But there is more to understand. My life is not only survival, it is a lesson in patience, judgment, and the courage to act wisely. Tomorrow, you will learn how to protect not only yourself, but those who cannot protect themselves." The veteran nodded, feeling the weight of the lesson. He had faced armies, weapons, and wars, but this was different. This was about understanding life, trust, and responsibility. It required careful observation, empathy, and the courage to stand against fear and prejudice. As night fell, the veteran and the wolf returned to their quarters. The stars above the alien sky shimmered faintly, casting a serene glow over the city. The wolf settled near him, its presence a comforting reassurance that he was not alone in this journey. He reflected on the day, the challenges, the lessons, and the growing bond between them. He realized that the wolf was more than a survivor. It was a teacher, guiding him in ways he had never experienced before. Before sleep claimed him, the veteran made a silent promise. He would honor the trust the wolf had placed in him. He would protect it, learn from it, and walk beside it through whatever challenges lay ahead. This was no longer just about inheritance or duty. It was about partnership, understanding, and shared purpose. The wolf, sensing his resolve, rested, its head lightly near the veteran's feet, a quiet gesture of approval and connection. In that moment, the veteran understood that the journey ahead would not be easy, but it would be meaningful. He was no longer walking alone. Together, they would navigate a world filled with fear, misunderstanding, and danger, and together they would grow stronger. The night passed quietly, with the rhythm of the wolf's breathing and the alien stars above providing a calm backdrop. The veteran dreamed not of battles and war, but of a path he and the wolf would walk together, a path of learning, trust, and courage. He knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges, but he also knew that he was ready. With the wolf by his side, he felt a rare sense of purpose and clarity. He had inherited a creature despised by many, misunderstood by most, and feared by all. Yet in that inheritance lay opportunity, wisdom, and a bond stronger than anything he had ever known. The day had taught him patience, observation, and the Thelmkrus value of trust. And as he closed his eyes, he knew that the lessons were only beginning, and that together he and the wolf could face anything the world would throw at them. The following day, the veteran woke to a sky painted with soft hues of pink and gold. The alien city, still waking from the quiet of night, seemed different somehow. There was a sense of tension in the air, faint but undeniable. The veteran could feel it even before he stepped outside. The wolf was already awake, standing at the edge of the courtyard, its glowing eyes scanning the surroundings with a calm intensity. "Something is stirring," the wolf said quietly. "You must be alert today. The world does not like what it does not understand. They will try to reclaim what they fear." The veteran nodded, tightening the straps of his pack. He had learned over the past days that the wolf's instincts were rarely wrong. Its senses were sharper than any machine or human ability he had known. If it warned him, he would take it seriously. As they moved through the city streets, the reactions of others became more intense. Whispers followed them like a shadow, and a few citizens even hurried to clear the path, fear evident in their hurried movements. It was clear that news of the wolf's presence had spread. Perhaps someone had seen the veteran with it yesterday. Perhaps the story of a human walking openly with the despised wolf had traveled faster than he imagined. "People fear me," the wolf said, walking beside him. "But some fear can be turned into hesitation. Others fear because they know truth will come to light. Watch closely. Notice how their eyes shift when I speak." The veteran noticed immediately. A group of city officials, tall and stern-looking, stepped out from an alleyway. Their expressions were sharp, and their weapons were at the ready. They moved with precision, their eyes fixed on the wolf. The veteran's heart beat faster, not with fear, but with awareness. This was a test, and he had to be ready. "You are not welcome here," one of the officials said in a loud, commanding voice. "Return the creature at once, or face consequences." The wolf stepped slightly forward, calm but imposing. "I am not a creature to be returned," it said, its voice resonant and clear. "I am alive, I am aware, and I am not your property." The words caused a pause. The officials blinked, visibly shocked that the despised wolf spoke with such clarity and authority. The veteran realized then that the wolf's intelligence was something the officials had never truly considered. They had feared it, judged it. And yet, when confronted with its words, their certainty faltered. The veteran took a step forward. "You are judging what you do not understand," he said firmly. "This wolf is not dangerous. It has chosen to trust me, and I will protect it. You may fear it, but fear is not truth." The tension hung in the air. The officials hesitated, unsure of how to respond. In that moment, the wolf nudged the veteran gently, a subtle reminder of patience. "Observe, act wisely," it whispered. The veteran lowered his voice, speaking calmly, but with authority. "Walk away, and no one gets hurt. Act out of fear, and consequences will follow. Think carefully." There was a long pause. The officials glanced at one another, clearly weighing their options. Finally, they stepped back, muttering under their breath, and disappeared into the crowd. The veteran exhaled slowly, feeling the tension drain from his shoulders. The wolf remained calm, as if nothing had happened, yet the veteran knew that they had just survived a moment that could have turned dangerous. As they continued walking, the wolf began to speak of its life in ways the veteran had not yet heard. It told him about the secrets of the royal family of experiments meant to test the limits of intelligence and obedience, and of the ways it had been kept isolated to prevent others from seeing its full capabilities. Each story revealed not just pain but resilience, teaching the veteran about survival in a world where fear and prejudice often ruled. "You see now," the wolf said quietly, "why the king chose to give me to you. You understand what others never could. You do not act out of fear. You act out of awareness and integrity. That is why you are worthy." The veteran listened in silence, realizing the depth of trust the wolf had placed in him. It was not just survival or instinct that had shaped it. It was intelligence, patience, and an unyielding sense of self. He felt humbled and honored, understanding that this was a bond far deeper than companionship. It was mutual respect and understanding forged through trials and shared experience. As they moved toward the outskirts of the city, the wolf guided him to a quieter path, away from the crowds. There, the terrain opened up into hills and rocky areas, with strange alien vegetation glowing faintly in the sunlight. The wolf stopped, sitting on a small rise, and gestured for the veteran to observe. "Watch how I read this world," Wolf said. "See what others overlook. Danger and opportunity hide in plain sight. You must learn to see the patterns." The veteran knelt beside it, studying the subtle signs. Faint footprints in the dirt, disturbances in the plants, and shifts in shadows that indicated movement. He realized that the wolf's awareness was not just instinct, but a careful study of the environment, an intelligence honed by years of observation and survival. "Tomorrow," the wolf said, "you will learn how to use this knowledge. How to protect not only yourself, but those who cannot protect themselves. There are forces that will challenge us, but together we can face them." The veteran nodded. He had faced enemies in war, but this was different. This was about understanding, awareness, and courage rooted in compassion rather than aggression. He felt a new sense of purpose, knowing that the challenges ahead would test him in ways he had never imagined. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the alien hills, the veteran and the wolf settled in a small clearing. The wolf sat calmly, its posture relaxed but alert. The veteran took a moment to reflect on the day, on the encounters, and on the lessons he had learned. The bond between them had grown stronger, grounded in trust, respect, and shared understanding. Night fell, and the stars appeared in the alien sky, shimmering softly. The veteran lay down, feeling the steady presence of the wolf beside him. He knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges, but he also knew that he was no longer alone. He had inherited a creature that had been feared, misunderstood, and despised, and in doing so, he had found a companion, a teacher, and a friend. As he drifted into sleep, he felt the rhythm of the wolf's breathing and the quiet reassurance of its presence. The city and its dangers were far away now, and in the stillness of the night, he understood that the journey ahead would not be easy. Yet he felt ready, strengthened by the lessons of the day and the growing trust between them. Together, he and the wolf could face whatever challenges lay ahead. Tomorrow, the world would test them again, but for now, they rested. And in that rest, the veteran realized the truth of the wolf's words. Courage was not just about fighting, it was about understanding, patience, and the willingness to stand for what was right, even when others feared or rejected it. The morning air was crisp and sharp as the Army veterans stepped out of their quarters, the alien sun casting a warm glow over the city and the surrounding landscape. The wolf stood beside him, silent but alert, its glowing eyes scanning the horizon with quiet intensity. After the trials they had faced together, the bond between them had grown stronger, deeper, and more unbreakable than ever before. "Today is different," the wolf said, its voice calm, but with an edge of anticipation. "Today you will see." Why fear and prejudice cannot stand against truth and trust. You must be ready for what comes. The veteran nodded, adjusting his pack and checking his equipment. Over the past several days, he had learned to move in tandem with the wolf, to anticipate its instincts and to trust its judgment. He had also learned about patience, observation, and the quiet power of calm authority. But he knew this day would be different, more challenging, more revealing, and perhaps more dangerous than anything they had faced so far. As they moved through the city streets, the reactions of the citizens were immediate and intense. Whispers followed them like shadows, and many stepped aside, giving wide space to the wolf. A few creatures looked openly fearful, while others simply stared, curiosity and doubt wrestling with their unease. The veteran had learned to ignore the whispers, to focus on the wolf, and to trust in the bond they shared. Notice how they react, the wolf said quietly. Fear will always show itself, but so will hesitation. That hesitation is where power lies. That hesitation is where you can act with wisdom. They arrived at the central plaza, a vast open area surrounded by towering buildings and glowing alien architecture. In the center stood a group of the city's officials, the same ones who had confronted them days before. Their expressions were sharp, their posture rigid, and their eyes locked on the wolf with a mixture of fear and suspicion. "You have returned," one of the officials said, his voice carrying across the plaza. "And you continue to walk this city with that creature. Do you understand the consequences?" The veteran took a deep breath and stepped forward. "This creature is not dangerous. It is intelligent, aware, and loyal. It has chosen to trust me, and I will protect it. You fear it because you do not understand it. That fear does not make it a threat, it makes you small." A murmur spread through the officials. The wolf remained calm, sitting beside him, its eyes glowing faintly in the light. Then, in a voice clear and resonant, it spoke. "I am not your tool. I am not your weapon. I am alive. I have endured trials you cannot imagine, and I have survived. I speak not to threaten, but to reveal the truth. I am not to be feared. I am to be understood." The plaza fell silent. Citizens gathered at the edges, watching in awe and disbelief. The wolf's voice carried authority, wisdom, and truth, and even the officials could not hide their surprise. The veteran realized then that the moment they were in was pivotal, not just for them, but for the city and perhaps even for the alien kingdom itself. "You speak the truth," the veteran said, "and that truth is stronger than fear. You fear what you do not know, and you reject what challenges your understanding. But fear is not law, and ignorance is not justice. This wolf is loyal, intelligent, and brave, and I stand with it because it has chosen to trust me." One of the officials, the one who had spoken first, took a step forward. We underestimated it," he admitted, his voice quieter now, tinged with hesitation. "Perhaps we judged too quickly. Perhaps fear clouded our judgment." The wolf tilted its head slightly, its glowing eyes never leaving the group. "Judgment without understanding is weakness," it said simply. "Wisdom comes from patience, observation, and the courage to see truth. You have begun to see, but you have much to learn." The veteran felt a surge of pride, not for himself, but for the wolf. It had endured isolation, fear, and cruelty, yet it stood here, calm and dignified, revealing its truth to the world. He realized that the bond between them was more than partnership. It was mutual respect and understanding, a connection forged in trust and shared experience. As the day continued, they walked through the plaza together, the citizens watching in awe. The officials stepped aside, some still uncertain, others clearly impressed. The wolf's calm presence and clear words had silenced whispers and replaced fear with curiosity. The veteran knew that this moment was more than symbolic. It was a turning point. Later, as they reached the edge of the city, the wolf led him to a quiet hill overlooking the skyline. From here, the veteran could see the full expanse of the city, the glowing towers, the floating vehicles, and the countless beings moving through their lives. It was beautiful, chaotic, and alive, and now it seemed a little less intimidating, a little less fearful. "You see now," the wolf said, "how understanding can change perception. Fear will always exist, but truth and trust can overcome it. You have learned patience, awareness, and courage. You have proven yourself worthy not through battle alone, but through wisdom and integrity." The veteran looked at the wolf, feeling the depth of those words. He realized that his life had changed completely. He had inherited not just a creature despised by a kingdom, but a companion who had become his teacher, his protector, and his friend. In return, he had offered trust, care, and loyalty, qualities that had earned the wolf's respect and friendship. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the hills, the veteran and the wolf settled together, watching the glowing lights of the city below. The day had been challenging, but it had also been transformative. They had faced fear, prejudice, and judgment, and they had emerged stronger, united, and respected. The wolf nudged the veteran gently, a subtle gesture of approval and connection. "Our journey is not over," it said. "The world will always challenge us, but we have learned the strength of trust, the power of understanding, and the value of courage. Together, we can face whatever comes next." The veteran smiled, feeling a rare sense of peace and fulfillment. He had faced battles and survived wars, but this walking beside a being feared by many, earning its trust, and standing together against ignorance, was a victory of a different kind. It was personal, profound, and lasting. As night fell, the stars of the alien sky shimmered above them, reflecting softly on the hills and the city below. The veteran and the wolf lay close together, a silent bond connecting them in a world that had once rejected the wolf and doubted the human. They had proven that courage, wisdom, and trust could overcome fear and prejudice. In the quiet of the night, the veteran realized the truth of his journey. He had not just inherited a wolf. Despised by many, he had inherited a story, a life of resilience, and a companion who had changed him forever. And in that inheritance lay purpose, meaning, and a partnership that would endure, no matter what challenges the future might bring. For the first time in years, the veteran felt completely alive. He had found a companion who understood him, a being he could protect and learn from, and a path that led not only to survival, but to understanding, trust, and true connection. Together, they had faced fear, challenged prejudice, and walked into a world that was now beginning to see them not as threats, but as equals. The night passed quietly, with the rhythm of the wolf's breathing and the calm of the alien sky surrounding them. The veteran knew that challenges would continue, but he also knew that with trust, courage, and the bond they shared, there was no obstacle they could not face. The journey had begun with inheritance, but it had grown into something far greater: partnership, understanding, and the realization that even in a world filled with fear, trust and truth could shine brighter than anything else. And in that quiet moment, under the alien stars, the Army veteran and the wolf, once despised and feared, found peace, purpose, and a bond stronger than fear itself. A bond that would guide them through every trial, every challenge, and every adventure that lay ahead.